Hi, I'm Miguel Ángel Rodríguez, and in this video you're going to learn how to access ROS data from Raspberry Pi, access data from a simulation, a full simulation, server in the cloud, a very beefy computer or your local computer, basically, access ROS data, and the other way around. So publish data in Raspberry Pi and be able to access it from this simulation, remote server, your local computer, or a supercomputer that you have in your office. Okay? So let's get started. First things first, what are we going to use? We are going to use a Raspberry Pi 3 version B, and we are going to use a local computer and ROS Development Studio. If you don't know what it is, ROS Development Studio is a ROS development platform, web-based. You can go to this website to have more information about it. And basically, we're going to start from here. So go to ROS Development and sign in. If you don't have an account, then just sign up. When you log in, you'll get something like this. And here you launch your simulations or your development environment. So in this case, we are going to launch a simulation. Let me launch the simulation. So here I present you the simulation that we're going to use in this series of videos. So it's a face, basically, made with Blender. If you want to know how to do it, please leave it in the comments below, and I'll do a video just specific on how to do this kind of stuff. But because it's not ROS related, unless you tell me in the comments, I won't do the video. So it's a simulation with this face, which is attached to a spherical joint that we've created in Gazebo. And then we have this camera, which is just a box with a red indicator to indicate where it's pointing. So it's pointing to the face. And what kind of data do we have in the simulation? So let's have a look. We're going to open a remote desktop, graphical tools. We launch RQT GUI to be able to control and see the data of the camera. So if you don't know what we are doing, please leave it in the comments below if you have any doubts or things that you might want to be explained better. But also you can learn how to do this and much more through Robotics Ignite Academy and the courses. So if you have any doubts, please refer to these courses, which probably will teach you how to do this and more, much more. Okay. So we have here a camera. Well, the camera that we have here, it's pointing to the face. As you can see, it has a material inside and so on. And here we can move it. We are publishing basically in the topics. There we go. So we can move the face around. And essentially what we want is be able to access all this data and much more through our Raspberry Pi, and also send to this simulation camera data, for example, from Raspberry Pi, but also other extra sensors like pressure sensors, or maybe we need, I don't know, proximity sensors or point clouds and so on, or pre-processed data like we are going to do with the camera face recognition, and we just publish a topic that says the name of the person that he recognized, and this simulation just receives that topic, which is much more efficient than sending a whole bunch of images. Yeah. So we are going to learn how to do this. So there are several steps. we are going to open our Jupyter so it's a bit clearer. There we go. Okay, so to do this and to see all the process, we need some steps. And it's very important that you know how to do this, because when you work with Raspberry Pi, it's quite uncomfortable to work through a tiny keyboard attached to the Raspberry Pi, and then you connect it to the HDMI and so on. So you have to be able to connect via SSH or something more complex. So first step, let's connect through SSH. So I have defined, I'll leave all this material in the comments below and so on, don't worry, but basically you have to install this in your Raspberry Pi. It's the only moment in this tutorial that you have to connect physically in some way to the Raspberry Pi and install this, okay? There's nothing very special. You are just installing OpenSSH server and allowing connection through port 22, and then you're restarting this. Then you have to get the name of the user inside Raspberry Pi and your IP that your Raspberry Pi has assigned. This is from the Raspberry Pi side. From the connector side, which is this physical computer in this case, we are going to do an SSH. Yep. So I'll do an SSH right now, and here we are. So now we are seeing all the files that we have installed our Raspberry Pi. Who am I? For example, you see that it's this user, while in local computer, who am I? It's different, just to see. But basically that's it. So we are connected to our Raspberry Pi. So what then? So the next step is, okay, what if I have a program installed in my local computer and in Raspberry Pi? Can we see it? Yeah, we can see it, because you just have to do an SSH exactly the same, but with -X, and you'll be able to open graphical windows that are installed in both places. But this is not normally the case. So the thing is, what if I want to connect to Raspberry Pi and open graphical stuff that I don't have installed, which is quite normal, actually. So in my case, I don't have ROS, full-fledged ROS installed in my computer, not even the same version. So I want to be able to open graphical tools of ROS-related stuff, like RViz or like RQT, from Raspberry Pi. So we are going to connect through RDP. So in the Raspberry Pi side, you just have to install this. So in my case, I've already installed, so I won't do it. And then get the user and the IP. Once you have it in your local computer, so let's say here, we install a software called Remina to do RDP. There are many softwares to do this. I like Remina. Once you have it, you just have to fire it up, set the IP, the password of the user, the color, and so on. So it will be different for each user. So let me fire up Remina. So once you have the configuration correctly done, you should, when you connect, you should have something like this. So you put your password. This is the password of the user of Raspberry Pi. Okay, done. So now this is the desktop of Raspberry Pi. It's not my desktop, it's the Raspberry Pi desktop, which is basically the same thing that you would see if you connected directly in HDMI to a monitor to the Raspberry Pi. So once we have this, now we want to do the start of the show, which is see ROS related topics from our simulation in the cloud through Raspberry Pi. Okay, so we have our terminal. So if we do ROS topic list here, so basically we don't have anything here running. Okay, so it won't work. So the thing is, how do we connect our Raspberry Pi to our fantastic simulation here, and we can be able to see everything we are seeing here in our remote in ROS Development Studio, or in your server, or in your local computer, whatever you are using. Not only simulations, but also deep learning algorithms. So we have a very beefy computer that it's running this deep learning algorithms. How do we see it? To do this in ROS Development Studio, it's really easy. If you are a paying user, you just have to go to VPN and how to connect. So what we are going to do is we install this in our Raspberry Pi. So in my case, I've already done it. Now we have to download this client OpenVPN file, which is the most important file, and we are going to copy it to Raspberry Pi. So I'll see you when I've done that. Okay, done. I can't show you the contents just because it's sensible data, but basically we have it already done. So now we just have to execute this. Remember, in Raspberry Pi, we are SSH'd to Raspberry Pi. There we go. So we got initialization sequence completed. That's good. So we are connected. So now we can connect again to open another terminal connected to a Raspberry Pi. So let's connect. So we are now connected here. So now what do we have to do? So the thing is, you have to paste this in order to make the ROS master URI from Raspberry Pi point to our ROS Development Studio here. Okay, so let's do it in both, because you have to do it in each of the shells that you open. Once we have it, now we can do ROS topic list, and there we go. So obviously we don't have all this running in our Raspberry Pi by default. If we go to Remina, you see that Remina doesn't find a ROS master because there's none running in Raspberry Pi. It's running in our simulation. So to do it easier, we are going to do let me, for example, vim ROS connection txt, for example, and we're going to save this. And then this is a trick because we can't copy paste here, so we can do a cat ROS connection. There we go. And now here we copy and we paste, and now we do a ROS topic list, and there we go. So now we have it connected, fully connected. So now let's have fun. So the thing is, I want to see the same thing that we are seeing here in Raspberry Pi. So to do this, we go to Remina and we launch, for example, ROS run rqt image view. We run it. So as you can see, it's quite good. And if, for example, I stop this, I put it to 0, for example. Remember that here I'm working on my remote ROS Development Studio, basically. And let me, for example, change this one, sine I divided by 100, for example. And then we execute this one. So you see that it's really fast. You have to be conscious that this isn't in Raspberry Pi. So Raspberry Pi is getting this data at this rate. So it's amazing. It's really amazing. And if we go here and see the simulation, how it's going and what's the difference basically. So you see there's a difference. But I mean, there's not a lot of difference between what we are seeing in one and what we're seeing in the other. Okay, so you see, depending on my internet connection, it goes a bit, but it's getting the data actually. So nice for us. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So now, what can we do? Well, we can do the other way round. So let's stop this for a moment. And let me go here. And now we are going to run, sorry, because I have my instructions here. So cat start camera. We're going to start the camera of Raspberry Pi. Yeah, that we explained in the blog. So we have to execute these commands. Okay, now we initialize the camera. Oh, sorry, it's true. It's true. Why? Because we have to, yeah, that's a good point. So every connection that you do, you have to do this. Otherwise, you don't have any ROS running there. So let's, whoops, sorry. See, can source batch, and then let me execute activation. There we go. So now we are going to see the camera here. So let me refresh here. But let's do it a bit bigger. So you see that we have Raspberry Cam image here. So it's black because I have the cover. There we go. So now we are receiving the images. So you see I'm recording the Raspberry Pi, that it's sending the images of my workspace, on my surrounding basically, to the ROS Development Studio. So amazing, huh? Okay, so these images can be used to do anything like face recognition and so on, but all the processing won't be done in the ROS. It won't be done in the Raspberry Pi, but it will be done in our super beefy computer, or in this case in ROS Development Studio, which you have access to very big servers with like 32 cores and loads of graphics cards, and you can do such crazy things, which gives access to Raspberry Pi to and processing power basically. So there we go. I'm going to put the cap again. Fantastic, right? Okay. So we finish here. So thank you very much. If you give us a thumbs up if you loved the video, if you want more content related to this, and if you want to learn more about robotics and all the ROS related topics that you want, go to Robotic Light Academy to learn how to use all this data, all these images, everything, how to use it and do amazing stuff. So thank you very much. Please subscribe and see you in the next video. Bye.